Today I'm going to be talking about Operation Paperclip. This is Wikipedia.com, Operation Paperclip. Project Paperclip redirects here for the Holocaust Project. See Paperclip Project. For other uses, see Paperclip ambiguation. Kurt H. Debut, a former Nazi scientist turned director, sitting between President of the United States John F. Kennedy and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, Baines, during a briefing at Blockhouse 34, Cape Canaveral Missile Test Annex. There's a Nazi sitting right beside the most powerful man in the world. Might have been the reason he got killed. Operation Paperclip was a secret program of the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, JIOA, largely carried out by special agents of Army CIC, in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians such as Werner von Braun and his V2 rocket team were taken from Germany to America for U.S. government employment, primarily between 1945 and 59. Many were former members and some were former leaders of the Nazi Party. The primary purpose for Operation Paperclip was U.S. military advantage in the Soviet-American Cold War and the space race. The Soviet Union was more aggressive in forcibly recruiting more than 2,200 German specialists, a total of more than 6,000 people, including family members with Operation, I'm sure how to pronounce that. I'll just say Operation Oso. During one night on October 22nd, 1946. So this justifies it, why we did it. This is how they justify it. The Russians are doing it. The Russians are doing it. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, JCS, established the first secret recruitment program called Operation Overcast on July 20th, 1945, initially to assist in shortening the Japanese War and to aid our post-war military research. The term overcast was the name first given by the German scientists' families members for the housing camp where they were held in Bavaria. In late summer 1945, the JCS established the JIOA, a subcommittee of the Joint Intelligence Community, to directly oversee Operation Overcast and later Operation Paperclip. The JIOA representatives included the Army's Director of Intelligence, the Chief of Naval Intelligence, the Assistant Chief of Air Staff 2, Air Force Intelligence, and a representative from the State Department. In November 1945, Operation Overcast was renamed Operation Paperclip by the Ordnance Corps, United States Army officers who would attach a paperclip to the folders of those rocket experts whom they wished to employ in America. And a secret directive circulated on September 3rd, 1946. President Truman officially approved Operation Paperclip and expanded it to include 1,000 German scientists under temporary, limited military custody. In the later part of World War II, Nazi Germany found itself at a logistical disadvantage, having failed to conquer the USSR with Operation Barbarossa. That's another subject we'll speak on another time. Let's see. Operation Paperclip. CIA.gov. What do they have to say? Intelligence in public literature. Operation Paperclip, the secret intelligence program to bring Nazi scientists to America. By Annie Jacobson, Little Brown and Company, 2014, 575 pp. Endnotes, bibliography, index. Reviewed by J. Watkins. As World War II ended, the race was on with the Soviet Union to seize as many German scientists as possible. In anticipation of the Cold War, the full story has remained elusive until now. Operation Paperclip by Annie Jacobsen provides perhaps the most comprehensive, up-to-date narrative available to the general public. Her book is a detailed and highly readable account of the program. Jacobsen compiled extensive primary and secondary sources, duly noted in over 100 pages of notes and bibliography. In it are many new sources, among them U.S. government records, President Clinton's Nazi War Crime Disclosure Act, German archival records, first-person accounts, memoirs, and letters. The book also contains a useful index and biographies of the principal players. Jacobsen offers a detailed chronology of events related to Operation Paperclip. Because of its scope and the introduction of so many characters, the narrative could have been improved if the author had focused on a shorter list than the 89 individuals profiled and maintained more topical continuity. Nevertheless, the book is a compelling work with interesting historical and personal revelations. For example, one of the most notorious cases of WMD proliferation occurred on 15 May 1945 when the German U-234 submarine bound for Japan was captured off Newfoundland by the USS Sutton. The U-boat carried Dr. Heinz Schleich, director of Naval Test Fields at Kiel, and the cargo included plans for the HS-293 glide bomber, V-1 glide bomb, forerunner to cruise missiles, V-2 rocket, forerunner to the Scud missile, ME-262 fighter aircraft, the first combat jet fighter, low observable submarine designs, and lead-lined boxes filled with 1,200 pounds of uranium oxide, a key ingredient of atomic bombs. Schleich, who claimed to be an electronic warfare expert, became a prisoner at Fort Meade, Minnesota? I don't know what that is. MD, I should know. Sarin was produced at Dahernfurth, later fell into Russian hands. Its name derives from the initials of its developers, Gerhard Schrader and Otto Ambros, from the infamous IG Farben Chemical Company, maker of the killing gases used at concentration camps, and from the names of two German army officers. Schrader tells the story of inventing taboon, a nerve agent named after the English word taboo. The Germans called it 991, and after their defeat at Stalingrad, seriously considered using it on the Russians. I will bring a story about the Battle of Stalingrad, because that's really what ended World War II. Most Americans don't even know it. Henry Wallace, former Vice President and Secretary of Commerce, believed the scientists' ideas could launch new civilian industries and produce jobs. Indeed, German scientists developed synthetic rubber used in automobile tires, non-running hosiery, the ear thermometer, electromagnetic tape, and miniaturized electrical components, to name a few. Wernher von Braun is well known to those who remember the Apollo moon landing. During the Ford administration, von Braun was almost awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, until one of Ford's senior advisors, David Gergen, objected to his Nazi past. Less well known is that Another 120 fellow German scientists, engineers, and technicians developed the Saturn V launch vehicle, or that the Launch Operations Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida, was headed by Kurt Debu, an ardent Nazi. The vertical assembly building, bigger in volume than the Pentagon and almost as tall as the Washington Monument, was designed by Bernard Tessmann, former facilities designer at the German missile launch facility at Peenemünde. Other prominent Nazis hired under Operation Paperclip include Dr. Hubertus Struckold, who played an important role in space medicine by developing spacesuits and other life support systems. In June 1948, he put a rhesus monkey named Albert in the pressurized nose cone of a V-2 rocket in a pressurized nose cone. The first step in the effort to send humans to space. General Reinhard Gehlen, former head of Nazi intelligence operations against the Soviets, was hired by the U.S. Army and later by the CIA to operate 600 ex-Nazi agents in the Soviet zone of occupied Germany. In 1948, CIA Director Roscoe Hellenkoetter assumed control of the so-called Gehlen organization. German biologist Dr. Kurt Blum was hired to develop offensive and defensive capabilities to counter Soviet biological warfare activities. In 1949, the CIA created the Office of Scientific Intelligence. Its first director, Dr. Willard Mack, traveled to Germany to set up a special program to interrogate Soviet spies. The CIA believed the Russians had developed mind control programs and wanted to know how U.S. spies would hold up against this capability if caught. He also aimed to explore the feasibility of creating a Manchurian candidate through behavioral modifications. Thus, Operation Bluebird was born. Bluebird, later called MK Ultra, was a research activity experimenting in behavioral engineering of humans. The Nuremberg Code prohibits experimentation with humans without their consent. During this program, Dr. Frank Olson, a U.S. Army biological weapons researcher, was given the drug LSD without his knowledge, leading to his death by leaping from a building. DCI Richard Helms ordered much of the documentation destroyed, and the circumstances of his demise remain controversial to this day. Although she understandably questions the morality of the decision to hire Nazi SS scientists, Jacobson balances her judgment with an understanding of the perceived threat of the Soviet Union under Stalin and the communists' dialectical determination to prepare for total war with the West. The Soviets similarly captured and used German scientists for their own defense programs. That side of the story is not covered in this book. Jacobson provides insights on joint intelligence coordination and cooperation among U.S. services and allies, operational deconfliction, document and foreign material acquisition and exploitation, interrogation techniques, active tracking, production of foreign intelligence, surveillance and counter-surveillance methods, and negotiating the sometimes conflicting objectives of the judiciary and the intelligence community, i.e., hang them versus hire them. Well, I think that right there is enough to prove to anybody that, all right, the CIA was created by Nazis. It was filled by Nazis. And even at one point, they gave an ex-Nazi a 600-man army of secret soldiers, basically. That's our government, people.